This is a continuation of the 7-4 video, page 22 in your notes, and we are going to do example 2, part B. So just like in part A, the first step is finding the greatest common factor for your two terms. This is a binomial. Now, like we did in the other one, we could list the factors of 4, which are 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. And we could list the factors of 20, which are 1 times 20, 2 times 10, and 4 times 5. I want to show you a different little shortcut you can also do that you'll use your calculator for. So we have two numbers here that we're trying to find the greatest common factor for, which are 20 and 4. If you take the bigger factor, ignore that negative, take the bigger factor, or coefficient, I should say, divide it by the smaller coefficient, which is 4, and you find that when you do that division, you get a nice whole number. That tells you that your greatest common factor will be that 4, because 4 divides into 20 evenly. And if we look over here at our factor list, the greatest common factor that we find over here is 4. So that's just a little shortcut. Take your bigger number here, divide it by your smaller, so 20 divided by 4. I got a nice whole number. That means 4 is my greatest common factor. So I also want to check my variables. So they both have y's. This term has 3 y's. So this 20y to the third I could think of as 4 times 5 with 3 y's. The 4y to the fourth I could think of as 4 with 4 y's. So I'm rewriting this using that greatest common factor of 4. Now if you look at this, here this term has 4 y's, this term has 3 y's. So they both have 1 y in common. They both have 2 y's. They both have 3 y's. They both don't have 4 y's. So the greatest number that they both have in common is 3 y's. So that would be 4y to the third. Greatest common factor goes out front here. And then the problem that we're factoring goes inside the box. That subtraction, put it over here next to your 20. And then we're finding what I call the leftovers after we divide by the 4y to the third. This is where we put our answer. I call it the leftovers. If we have a minus here, you're going to have a minus up here. All right, so think I'm dividing out 4 and 3 y's. So if you go up here and you get rid of a 4 and 3 y's, what is left over? 1 y. I'm even going to put that 1 in front of there. 1 y. If I'm dividing out 4y to the third from this term, 4 divided by 4 is 1, and my 3 y's divided by 3 y's is 1. I'm left with a 5. So it looks like my two factors are my greatest common factor and my leftovers, which I want to write out here in that form with the parentheses. Looks like something you would do distributive property on. And then let's check it. Let's do distributive property. So we're going to do 4y times y and 4y times negative 5. See if we get our original problem. 4 times 1 is 4. Y to the third times y to the 1 is y to the fourth. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. And here I have that y to the third. So if you look, that matches what we started with. So then you know you did indeed factor that correctly. Also, you should check up here even before you take your answer out of the box. 4 times 4 is 1. Y to the third times y to the 1 is y to the fourth. 4y to the third times negative 5 is negative 20y to the third. Okay, one more. Greatest common factor. This has 3 terms, so this is a trinomial. I'm looking for greatest common factor of 7, 21, and 14. But first I'm going to do that trick. I'm going to see if 7 divides into 21 and 14 evenly. So 21 divided by 7, I get 3. So that divides in evenly. And if I do 14 divided by 7, I get 2. So that divides in evenly. So then that tells me my greatest common factor for my coefficients is going to be that 7. And again, if you listed the factors, this is what you'd have, 2 times 7 here, you would find that 7. So you can always do where you list the factors. Okay, now I'm going to check my variables. This term has 7 z's. This term has 6 z's. This term has no z's. So there are no common z's. This term doesn't have any z's, so I cannot factor a z out of a term that doesn't have any z's. So that means my greatest common factor is just the 7. So in this one, I'm going to show you how you would do it without the box. If you like the box, you can draw it in. I know I'm factoring a 7 out of a trinomial, so my leftovers will be a trinomial. I'll have a plus here and a minus here. And in this case, all I need to think is factoring is the same as dividing, so I'm dividing each of these terms by my greatest common factor, which is a 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. Z to the 7th is still there. 21 divided by 7 is 3. Z to the 6th is still there. 14 divided by 7 is 2. I already filled in that plus and minus, so this is done. You should go ahead and try those your turns, and then when you're in class, you can check those. You should try the exit ticket, and when you're in class, you can get those checked. And then if you haven't yet, then the last thing you would do is the 7-4 assignment. So pages 24, 23, and the bottom of 22 are all opportunities for you to practice.